name is Sina Martin. I am the founder and CEO of Higher Grade Help Inc. And at Higher Grade Help, we essentially work with solopreneurs, service providers, um, leaders, execs who are in various segments of the market and industry who want to develop resiliency within their workforce and who struggle to keep employees engaged, keep their contractors happy long term while also inspiring productivity and really making sure that your company or your organization can thrive long term, particularly in the new world or this new environment of business that we're in now. So we do a lot of work around resiliency, around team operations, around fortifying your customer support, and really training your team how to think independently so that they can run the operations of your high value or high ticket service without your input always being needed. So, what I want to talk about today is decision fatigue, and this will be not so much a conversation for your team, but more so for you. If you are leading the team, if you are, like the head of operations, or you may be even the CEO or the business owner, I want to talk to you about decision fatigue and three keys to creating critical thinkers within your team. Now, like I said, this conversation is very inspired because I talked to a good sister of mine the other day. Well, yesterday we talked actually, and then this conversation also came up a couple times from um, some of you who are in our exponential experience coaching program, and I was surprised honestly when I went back and looked at some of the submissions and let me back up. So I went back and I did some digging through some of our like basically data from a work that we've done over the last year and a half or so with various different types of business owners across many different industries, right? And I noticed this theme kept coming up. So I said, this is something that I need to make sure that I addressed publicly, and I really get into like how to work through this if you are finding yourself feeling overwhelmed or ready to just throw in a towel. If we're being honest, ready to throw in the towel because of this. So pull up a seat, get comfortable. You may be getting ready to grab a bite to eat or going on about your day as you're listening to this, but this is going to be worth the investment of time for you to stick through this video. I think this is going to be really really valuable for you. Or if you're listening to this, you might be listening to this too over on the podcast. So depending on where you are tuning in, like stick with me because this is going to be of extreme value to you. So the first question I have for you before we start diving into this is, do you look at some brands? Do you look at some, hey Hasabar, how you doing? Do you look at some brands or other companies and wish you could grow the same way you see them growing? Have you ever sat back and looked at other, let's just say you are an agency or you're trying to start an agency, or you're a startup that has a team, and you're working to, take your client support to the next level, but you feel like your team is kind of stagnant. You aren't able to get over this hump. I was actually talking, like I said, to my sister yesterday, and she was mentioning with her particular team, like they're stuck at this hump of, I think it's in between, let's say 10 and 20K months. And she's trying to get to 30. She's like, I need to get to the 30 mark, but I don't know what we're doing or what we're missing or what the problem is. So have you ever felt like you're stuck at this, whether it's the income threshold or just the amount of clients that you want to serve, or maybe you're trying to get to a certain size of your business and you feel like you can't do it, or you feel like your team is holding you back. That's a better way to say it. If that's true, put a yes, put a Y in the comments, or a N for no. Yes or no. Have you ever felt like that? Like your team is actually holding you back when they should be empowering you to move forward? Yeah? Have you ever felt that way? And if that's the case, Do you feel decision fatigue because you're the person who consistently has to answer questions, or you're the one who's making all of the decisions for your team members? So you went from making decisions, for yourself when it was just you and you were a solopreneur, to now you may have a team of like 3 or 4 people and you're making decisions for everybody on the team. So first question, are you looking at other brands and wishing you could grow the same way? Right? Second question, do you feel like your team is holding you back? Yes or no? Yes or no? And then third, are you feeling decision fatigue because you went from making decisions for one to making decisions for all? If you said yes to at least two of those questions, this conversation is for you. You are here, you're in the right place. Stick around because, we need to definitely talk about this. Asabar say yes. Yes. Yes to which one? Do you feel decision fatigue? Which question were you saying yes? Were you answering yes to? Yeah, if you feel that way, you're definitely in the right place. I wanna talk to you about, particularly. I want to tell my own story about this, like my own experience with this. Just working with so many teams. I have over 18 years of experience in this game. I've worked with so many teams. I honestly cannot count how many businesses I have touched, easily over 1,000, just in my work as a workforce development expert. And one thing I will say about this decision fatigue, a lot of times as the leaders of these teams, we are the ones that say it's the people. Like, they're not independent thinkers, right? They're not critical thinkers. Typically, we'll put it on the people who are working, with us or for us or whatever the case is. But a lot of times the real issue behind the scenes is that we as the leaders, or let me know what you guys are. Are you a CEO? If you're a CEO, put that in the comments so I can tailor the conversation based on your experience, because I want this to make sense to you. So if you're a CEO, put that in the comments, in the chat. If you're a leader or a manager, someone who is managing a team or leading a team, but you're not necessarily the owner of the business, let me know that in the comments too. Either way, this will apply to you, okay? But a lot of times what we'll do as the directors, I'll say, of the team, is we'll say, well, it's them. They're the problem. They won't step up to the plate. But what I've noticed is, and this is where I want to share this story to kind of help you see this perspective. I learned this on my own, that I had an issue with I had an issue with sharing the outcome with other people. And let me tell you what I mean by that. You know, as a director, as a leader, as the visionary, right? You know, and you fully understand that whatever decisions you make within this organization, within the company, and really within life too, the results, it could go really, really bad, or it could go really, really bad, or really, really good, right? Not to put it that way, or overuse the word really, but just to make it make sense for you. The result could go left, or it could go right. And as a leader, a lot of times we want to control the result as much as we can. We do not want to let control of the outcome, because if the outcome is amazing, we want the credit for it. Like, we worked hard, we gave this all we got. We're putting ourselves on the front line every single day to move this operation or this organization forward. So we want credit if it goes well. However, if it goes wrong, a lot of us are in a place where, if things go wrong, we want to be able to either shift the responsibility for why it went wrong, meaning shift it away from us, or point to something and say that's what it was. I'm claiming my own. I'm calling myself out with this, because I do this too, and I've gotten better with it over time and over the years. But I do this. I've done this, and I continue to make the mistakes sometimes where I have to catch myself. But if things go left or they go wrong, as the leader, we want to say, "Oh, that's what happened. It was, you know, we had an ad manager on the team who didn't manage the ad, who didn't manage the ads properly. or this ball was dropped because X, Y, and Z happened, right? We want to be able to pinpoint what caused the problem and then shift away what the responsibility of it is. And sometimes it is on us. So sometimes we have to step up to the plate and say, you know what? I didn't really market that the way I should have. Or I dropped the ball on that sales call. That was me. I didn't position it right. I didn't articulate it properly. So the person didn't invest. But either way, the outcome is a big deal, is the point I'm making. And so with the outcome, a lot of times we either want to take full credit for it or we want to be able to point to the issue and identify it quickly. And so the idea of sharing decision making with someone who's less senior than you, less experienced as you, and who doesn't have as much to lose is a nightmare. It's a frightening thing. And this comes from you being a solopreneur or independent. I could do it by myself. I got this. I'm used to doing it on my own, right? Y'all remember the INDE, right? That's us. We want to do it by ourselves, right? Like that's how we've done everything. That's how we've got to this point, being so independent. But the issue is when you take that mindset into running a team and leading people, it's actually destructive. It doesn't have the same result as it did when it was just you doing this on your own. And I'm going to use a um, I'm going to parallel this to something that a lot of you will understand. Anyone out there who has been a single parent, or you've known a single parent, or you've been a single mom, a single dad, right? You've had custody of a child and you did it by yourself. You understand fully what I'm saying. That mindset will get you very far when you have to make things happen because there is no plan B. There is no fallback option. There is no this won't work. It must work. It has to work, right? So that mindset works when you're in a different environment. But when you pull that over to running a team, it's actually destructive. So what we do here is we try to mimic what's helped us survive life and what's helped us get a step ahead in life in these businesses. We try to mimic it because we think, well, that's leadership. I always make things happen. So I know I can do the same thing in this business. But I sent the email out to our community. Well, my community. If you're not on the email list, we have a 5-day challenge coming up next week. We start Monday. Make sure you go to the link that's either in the bio. It's all over my pages. It's in the show notes. Just go to challenge.hire, HIRE, greathelp.com and register for the challenge so you can get on the email list, so you can join the newsletter, and you need to be in the challenge next week, starting Monday, if you struggle with this problem, because we're going to disseminate this. Like by the end of the challenge next week, you will never do this again. So join the challenge. Okay. Small plug. But essentially what we do or what we need to do is we need to think about how do we start shifting our mindsets from survival to how do we go from surviving to thriving? Because the survival mindset you had when you were the independent one who made things happen all on your own, it's actually going to keep you in the independent, doing everything on my own, not creating leaders within my organization, and it's going to continue to attract everything in your company, everything in the business around you. It's a continued cycle of making you the center of everything that's happening in the company. You see the issue? But what you really want to do within the business is you want to start passing out leadership. So you want others who are on the team with you to start to be able to make decisions. You want to create leadership within the business. So what I'm gonna get into is just 3 ways. Let's talk about 3 levers you can pull. Okay, 3 levers you can pull to create critical thinkers within your team. And let's move away from the entire organization, which means every question that comes in from a client, every problem that comes up in the business. It's a business. Problems come up every day. Questions that are coming in, right? Decisions that need to be made. Every time something occurs, your team does what? They call you. What should I do? Can you help me? What's the answer to this? The client asks this. What's the answer? They come to you because you've created another world that orbits around you. But what we need to do is start looking at how do we how what you need to do is start to look at how to shift some of this away, how to shift the responsibility, how to shift the leadership. You are such an expert at being independent and being a critical thinker on your own that it's time for you to start teaching the rest of your team how to do that too. And the beauty of it is they don't have to learn it from necessarily the hard knocks of life the way you may have had to. They actually get to learn it now under your direction, under your mentorship, under your guidance. Now that's that impact that you always wanted to make by creating this company. You actually have an opportunity to do it now amongst the people that work for you. And this is something I'm going to go into deeply in the challenge starting Monday, is creating that resiliency in your business. How do you make sure that you're not the only boss on the team? How do we get you to a place where you're comfortable with other people making decisions so that you can recover from decision fatigue, and so that you can celebrate outcomes that happen within the business that other people were responsible for? See, the thing about it is this: you create this vision and you create this idea for what you want to um where you want this organization to go, right? For where you want the organization to go. But you're at the same time, you may be hindering the people that work with you from rallying around it to bring the vision to life. Like, you may be stopping them from allowing to pick up their tools and everybody gather together, everybody attract towards the vision you set for the company so they can help you build it. You see where I'm going with this? So let's talk about how to not do that. If this is making sense, just drop like a yes in the comment. Give me a yes. If you know for a fact that pulling one of these levers I'm getting ready to share with you is going to make the difference for your team and for your company, put a one in the comments. Drop a one in the comments. If just making one change, one shift to this issue will help you make a difference with your team. I appreciate y'all on Instagram. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube is tuned in today. And I appreciate y'all for jumping in, saying hello, giving me some interaction. I'm glad this topic was on time. I really want to focus on creating the solution for this particular issue for our community of solopreneurs, because we have a community of, you're a part of it, right? You're watching this video. We have such a thriving community of CEOs, leaders, presidents of banks that were here working with us, like, you know, IT companies. Like, we have so many different types of leaders within our organization, nonprofits who are focused on maternal mental health care, we're focused on maternal mental health in these different states where, moms are losing their lives for lack of access to proper health care. So the 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 amount of dynamic leaders that we have across this community continues to surprise me. It I'm taken back by it some days, but because I can see that this is an issue that a lot of you are dealing with, I want to make sure that I give my all to helping you solve this. And when I say give my all, I mean create a solution that it doesn't exist right now, right? We want to set the bar. I want to set the bar for the solution. So let's talk about these levers. First lever, commit to not making yourself the only boss on the team, right? We already talked about how you may have unknowingly taken off all the reins of leadership from your workforce. You may have unknowingly taken away all the leadership and hoarded it for yourself. So what we want to do now is begin to reverse that. It may actually be that your team members are not taking initiative or not giving it their best effort. There may be a underlying cause of laziness, if that's what you want to call it, right? It may be. That's possible. However, we need to evaluate and diagnose it first before you assume it's laziness or you assume they just don't want to work. We need to actually diagnose what that is, because once you get the diagnosis, you know how to treat it, right? So you have to remember too that teams at times, they feel exhausted. Teams can feel exhausted, like they're humans. I've talked about this so often, particularly over on the Higher Grade Help podcast. I've been talking about this consistently the last few weeks. But remember that the people that work for you, they're human beings too. They get exhausted. Teams as a unit can become exhausted. They can get broken down. They can feel burnt out. And so you as a leader have to get into a space where you're training yourself to, one, not be the only boss on the team, but two, understanding how to lead burnt out teams. How do you lead people when they feel like they don't have anything to give and they're coming to work every single day? They don't have the capacity at times to give your clients or your customers the best response, right? The first time they open their mouth or the first time they get into the chat. You don't know, they may have just lost a family member. Do you know what's happening in their personal lives? Is your team even open enough to share with you what's actually going on with them at home? Maybe not everything, but the pivotal things that would be important to know, that affects their job. So that's the first thing. We need to just get back to remembering these people are human and understanding that if you're going to make sure, if you're going to avoid the common mistake of making yourself the only boss on the team, the first way you do that is by empowering these human beings who work for you. Have these conversations with them. And you don't have to flat out come out and say, I know, you may be going through personal things and this and that. Don't force a don't force a relationship. Don't force a relationship with them. But in your communication, it would be nice for you to also kind of take down the boss mask for a little bit and do some like team engagement activities. Maybe you guys have just a meeting to share, this is not at all, we're not even talking about work today. This is not for us to come and make sure we're checking off our to-do list, or, we're making progress on the KPIs this month. Let's just have a meeting just to discuss what's going on with us as human beings. Let's all bring our favorite dish, right? If you guys are in person, some of you are in person, some of you may be hybrid. If you have a portion of your team that's in person, maybe you guys all have a dinner, or you do something on a Thursday night or a Friday night or something, right? Everybody comes and brings their favorite dish, or you go to a restaurant and everybody orders their favorite thing off the menu and you have real human chat. Like, what's going on with you for real, for real? Let's be honest about what's happening here. You got to get to a point where people feel like they can communicate freely. They feel comfortable. They can trust you. If you really want to be a boss that has a team that helps you continuously grow this business to new revenue levels, meaning you want to get to high six figures, high seven figures. And I'm saying this from experience, from helping other teams do that, from helping other businesses do that. You got to get to a point where your team can trust. They have to be able to trust each other and they have to be able to trust you. So the first lever you can pull, make sure you're not making yourself the only boss on the team. It's not that everybody has to bow down and worship and answer to you. Yes, you may be the boss. Yes, you may be the leader. But everyone who has a hand in bringing this vision to life should understand their input results in action. Their input matters. It results in action. Not saying every idea they give has to be acted upon, But at least they know if they speak, if they share, it's going to have some impact on the thought process of the whole team. Yeah. So I'm not going to harbor on this one too long, but that's the first lever. You took something from that. Put a two in the comments. Put a two in the comments if you took something from that and that was valuable. Drop a two. Second lever, if you want to create leadership within your business, if you want to heal from decision fatigue, and if you want to create critical thinkers within your team, this is the second lever. And it relates to what I just said. What the first lever was, right? This piggybacks off of that. Help your staff to evolve as leaders. We are in a economy. We are in a digital world where there are two types of people. Okay, when it comes to workforce, when it comes to working, when it comes to jobs, employment, business, right? You have the people who have fears of making decisions that are going to result in inadverse results. So they play safe. They kick back in codependency. They kick back in codependency, right? And instead of them taking initiative, they come to you for all the leadership and direction. That's one type of person. Everyone's not like that, but that's one type. The other type is you have the ones who want to be leaders. They want to speak up. They want to give input. They want their input to have a result. They want to make a difference in the world. However, when they come to share it with you or when they come to speak up, you shut it down because you have your own insecurities and you want to be in charge of any result that comes out of this activity. So you won't allow the leader to grow. You're smothering them you're smothering their growth. So what do? They stop sharing with you their ideas. They stop being vocal about the gaps they see. They see what's going on with your customers at times more than you will, but they won't share it. They're not going to tell you because they know if they come to you and bring it, you're just going to say, "Oh, that's not important right now. We're focused on this client right now. We're focused on this deal. That don't matter right now. Go ahead and no, we're not going to do that." If every time your team brings something to you and you shut it down, what makes you think they're going to keep sharing? So if you want to help your staff evolve as leaders, you have to show them. You have to be a walking example of what it means to not always have to be in control, to not always have to get the credit, to be humble at times, to think critically, to problem solve, to own outcomes. If you do something in front of your team, again, using this as an example, because I had this I was having this conversation. I was having this conversation, like I keep saying the other day, yesterday. If you make a mistake in front of your team, let's just say you have a random outburst because you had a bad day, or you're just sick of everybody. You want everybody to just go home and leave you alone that day, and you have a outburst. If you want to show them humility and leadership, come to the next meeting or come in the next day and call a meeting and say, "Listen, I apologize. I acted out of character. That was not like me. I wasn't myself. If you want to explain, what's going on or why you had the outburst or what's frustrating you, particularly if it pertains to the team, share that with them. Tell them what the outburst was about, and then discuss how you're gonna act moving forward. But show them what it means. Show them what happens when you make a mistake. Show them what happens when you make a mistake. Show them what they should do, how they should own mistakes. See, we want to just skip to writing SOPs and creating SOPs, but this is the in between stuff that needs to happen if you want leaders to show up in your people. If you want your staff to evolve as leaders, these are the things that need to happen. Right? Drop a one in the comments if this is making sense or this is helping you. Drop a one if this is making sense. Let's go to the okay, so let's talk about the third and final lever. Just to recap, if you want to create critical thinkers within your team, you have to make yourself you have to remember not to make yourself the only boss on the team. And you have to and make sure that you're helping your staff to evolve as leaders. You can do this by having your staff, even they can register for our free challenge that's happening next week, the Building Business Resilience Challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. Go to challenge.hire, HIRE, greathelp.com. Register for the challenge. You can register all of your team members, have them go through it. That'll be a great starting point for them to assess themselves, see where their gaps are, build a 30, 60, and 90-day plan to increase themselves as leaders, to increase their resiliency, to bring those results back to your company. And they'll get one-on-one feedback and support as well throughout the entire challenge. Have your team register for our free Building Business Resilience Challenge if you want them to develop these leadership skills that I'm talking about right now. Okay, that's the second lever. Let's talk about the third one. The third lever is disseminating leadership by removing fear of retaliation. If you truly want to pass out leadership amongst your team, this goes back to remembering they're humans, but you have to think about the psychology of why they are making the decisions they're making, which is to come to you for all the answers. Why? Why are they doing it? It's because they have a fear, or it could be because they have a fear of retaliation. And you're saying, oh, I would never do that. Like, I would never retaliate, right? Well, even if you didn't retaliate, they have a fear of some type of repercussion, and they don't want the blowback. Remember, if they're already in a space of burnt out, feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, you're crushing them with the workload because you just doubled your business, or you just opened up an entirely new market of business with the same team, and they really didn't have the support they needed before you did that. So now it's really overwhelmed. So you have to think about all of this. If they're already overwhelmed and burnt out and crushed under the client workload, they also may have a fear of repercussions of making a wrong decision, especially if up until this point you've said to them, okay, well, you've said one thing like, we welcome open communication here. We want you to be free. We want you to talk about, what's going on, or give us ideas, right? But when they did that, or when they came to you and actually performed that, there was a repercussion for it. You chewed them out in the team meeting in front of everybody. Or, you put something in a group chat that embarrassed them, as opposed to giving constructive feedback. And I'm not saying, and maybe you didn't do it. Maybe someone else on your team did. But that experience, that negative experience, it has a lasting impact on the human brain. And so if they felt a negative cognitive response from openly sharing feedback, they're not doing it again. They don't want that feeling again. If you put your hand on the fire right now and burnt your hand, if you ever, when you were a little kid, ever put your hand over top of the stove and felt that singe, you ever got burnt like from touching the stove or touching something hot? You'll never do it again. I bet you never did it again. It's the same thing with the team. So if you really want to pass out leadership amongst your members and have and get them to a place where they're comfortable making decisions, thinking critically without your input, becoming a mirror you, which you always hear me talk about this. You want them to truly watch how you engage with customers or clients, and then mirror how you do it, so that they don't always need you to come give input on a situation that arose from a client. Then you have to make sure that you remove the fear of retaliation or repercussion. This is where I would suggest having protocols in place for what happens if certain actions are taken. I understand certain actions, if they stole something, or certain actions like that. It of course it should garner a certain response. Absolutely, of course it should. But if they're getting retaliated on or feeling repercussions just from sharing their input, just for sharing ideas, then it makes sense to look at your whole culture differently. You may need to rebuild this whole culture from the ground up, whether you know you have a culture or not. So hopefully, going through this has like sparked some attention in you as to what issues may be surfacing in your team in regards to them not thinking critically, or why they are so dependent on you for input, insight, feedback, putting out fires. One thing I do want to say is I want to congratulate you and I want to celebrate you for taking the position to lead from the front. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy job. It's not for the faint-hearted. And so I know that this can feel like it's more on your plate, but one thing I do want to say, and I want you to remember, is this is the reason I created this entire higher grade help business. This is the reason I created this platform. Is so you can remember that we are moving right along with you, almost like a partner, right? Moving right along with you within your business. This is not something you have to shoulder alone. This is not something you have to do by yourself. You're not figuring this out without any guidance. That's not the case here. But remember, this is also your responsibility. And if you want to create the difference in these human beings who work on your team and who work for you for a common goal, these things are things you can no longer ignore. And you have to pay attention to. Actually, you don't. I shouldn't say you have to. You don't have to. You could decide not to, but the repercussions will be significant if you don't. So if you enjoyed this video or you've enjoyed this episode, I should say, let me know. I hope I said something within those three levers that was of benefit to you. It'll help you make a difference. It'll help you lead your people differently. And tag someone who, hey Tanisha, tag someone who is decision fatigue as a CEO, or they're feeling so burnt out because they have a team and they still stressed out, still don't have any relief, still feeling overwhelmed. If you feel like you have a bunch of task rabbits on your team who can't make their own choices, or someone who feeling like that, share this with them. Share this live stream with them. Share this episode with them, okay? And that's all I have for you today. So if there is any questions you have about our challenge that's coming up, send me a message. You can always hit me in the DM. Reach out. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about it. But thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you for the next one.